Hello everyone. It's Kenyon here. It's Basketball Rewind. Like, comment, and subscribe on your way in if you like this stuff. Today I'm going to be talking about Giannis and essentially whether or not he is going to leave Milwaukee and the teams that make the most sense. So I'm going to talk about this from several different angles. First angle being Giannis. Um, Giannis would probably want to move out of Milwaukee because he's talked about the importance of winning. He's right at the tail end of his prime. He probably has another 3 years left around this level. He's probably not going to get a whole heap of a lot better, but where he's at is a perennial MVP candidate. He's usually finishing second or third in MVP odds year after year after year. It's very, I mean, simply put, he's a top five player in the league more than likely. I'm not here to like debate the rankings of this year versus that year, but year after year after year, he's probably going to be in the top five of the league. And he's going to remain that way for the next 3 years. What that means is that for other teams looking at it, if you have a top five player, it changes the calculus of your team. It changes what you're looking at. It changes the type of team that you can be. And more importantly, it changes your ultimate upside. Guys are going to want to come and play with that player. Other people are going to want to take sacrifices to play with that player. And in terms of jersey sales, playoffs, et cetera, what a star means to a market in terms of whether it be their NBA Cares stuff, where they're giving back to the community, whether it be just their presence alone. It's honestly it's a boost to the economy. So it means a lot for him to go to or leave wherever he's going to be. And that includes Milwaukee. So Milwaukee right now is facing some challenges. They obviously have Dame, who is one of the stars that they traded for, who just had an ACL tear. He was having a pretty good season overall, but when you're tearing your ACL and you're basically going to be out for all of next season, it puts Milwaukee in a tough spot because they don't really have any avenue to kind of make the right trades, requisite trades, to get better. And for someone who's trying to win a championship, that puts you in a tough position because you're saying, well, my legacy is on the line. I do have one, but I want more. And if I want to be talked about as an all-time great, which I feel like I might be, then I might need to find a way to win a championship outside of Milwaukee. And at this point, no one would fault him for doing so because he's won them a championship. So, in comes the Milwaukee Bucks. From their perspective, Giannis leaving does allow them to get the requisite assets back, which is great. The problem is that what they're going to be targeting is not going to mainly be picks. The reason being is, as I'm looking right here on the other screen here, I'm not going to pull it up just yet, but they have 8 picks across between now and 2031. By comparison, the Raptors, who own all of their future and a little bit more, have 13 picks. The majority of the picks that the Bucks have are actually second round picks. They don't even have their own. I guess they have the right to swap for next year. So that's the New Orleans right to swap for next year. But that means that if New Orleans does bad next year, well, New Orleans has a chance to decide. If Milwaukee finishes worse than them, then they get to select Milwaukee's pick, and that puts you in a tough spot. A lot of the other picks, like this year, it's Detroit's second rounder. That's pick 47. Detroit looks like they're on the rise. A lot of other people own the rights to swap picks with them. That includes New Orleans. Which is, it's one thing actually looking back, it would have been nice to get one of those, somehow get one of those pick swaps from New Orleans in the Brandon Ingram deal. But yeah, so, New Orleans and Portland seem to own a lot of the swap rights for this, for the Bucks picks until 2031. That's a long time. And that's a long time in terms of basketball. I mean, 4 years can go by really quickly, but it can also feel like an eternity at its time. So what they're going to be looking for is not going to be picks, because if they're just trading out and not getting players, you can't bank on tanking and being in the lottery to be able to be successful, unless you get really lucky and you and the other swapping team, do bad and both of you end up in the top four, which is very improbable. So for that reason, it's going to limit the teams that they're looking at. On top of that, because of the new CBA rules, there's certain teams that just won't be able to add Giannis without making major changes to their roster. A team like the Boston Celtics, say they were not injured, things went well, they might actually be able to trade for Giannis, hypothetically, if they traded like Brown for Giannis as a swap, I think. I'm just throwing that out there as an example. The problem is that now with Tatum being injured, they're not a good candidate to do that type of deal. I've heard other teams like being tossed out randomly, like people say the Lakers and whatnot. I don't see them as a possibility. So, based on the reporting so far, we've heard rumors, a lot of it is rumors, that Giannis wants to, ideally, if he's going to leave Milwaukee, he would like to stay in the East. However, we've also heard that he doesn't mind playing in certain places with no state income tax. If you're Giannis, you're going to want to be, whatever team you're going to end up on, you're going to want to make sure that that team can compete within a 2-year time span. I believe he has 3 years left on his deal, no player option, which is nice. As far as I know, I'm not cross-referencing it with the salary cap thing, but on Fanspo it says 3 years, and so since that is the case, you basically have 2 years to make it work right and to keep him happy so that you can get an extension and sail off into the sunset. Okay, so based on that, there's only certain teams that make sense. Dallas is one of the teams. Dallas is not going to be trading for Giannis, and I'm just going to take them out of the running. OKC, if they would have not have gotten to where they were at, in other words, the Western Conference Finals, then I would say that they would have been a excellent candidate to say, okay, you know what? Let's go over the top next year. At the end of the day, when you have a top 5 player, which they have in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and you have another top 5 player, well, things get a lot easier to build around, especially when those players don't play overlapping positions, and they can kind of, you can build a pick and pop or a pick and roll, more likely a pick and roll, between Giannis Antetokounmpo as well as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And so, yes, I'm going to take them out of the running. That only leaves a couple teams. The Nets are one of the teams in the East that has been rumored because Giannis has certain ties to that city, etc., etc. However, the Nets don't have the player package. The Nets also, from a salary standpoint, to cobble together their requisite salaries, they can get there, but you're looking at a package of, I believe, Cam Johnson being one of the main outgoing salaries. So say Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton. That's not really going to do it from the Bucks perspective. You need everyone to feel like they're getting something out of this, and that's part of what's going to go on. So I came up with it, and I realized that only really 2 teams make the most sense. And right now it is the Raptors being one of them because of their relationship with Masai, and they have the right type of salaries to send out to a small market team like Milwaukee, a small market team that has a new ownership group. That type of thing changes things in terms of the calculus of what the owners are thinking about as well. You also want, if you're Giannis, as well as the team acquiring Giannis, you want to be a team where if I get Giannis, I want to keep enough back in terms of getting him so that I can make the secondary move. Giannis alone is not going to get you that. It's like getting Kawhi. Kawhi gets you to one point, but you have to have enough to make the Marc Gasol move and make those secondary moves, and at least potentially make 2 secondary moves ideally. And so that's where we're at from that standpoint. Raptors are one, as I said. Houston would probably be the other team that makes the most amount of sense. There are ways that you can get to 3-team deals where you're including Portland or the Pelicans, and that would be even better because if you're doing that, then Milwaukee is able to get their picks back. On this channel, I'm going to stay away from talking about 3-team deals. So let's get into it. I have a couple ideas. We're going to go through it. And by the way, the Brooklyn picks that they actually have aren't that good anyways. So I'll just add that. So these are the 2 teams that make the most amount of sense. If you really, I will caveat this where he will go where he wants to go. If he wants to go to Toronto or if he wants to go to Houston or wherever he wants to go, he is more than likely, unless it's the Mavericks, in my opinion, he is more than likely to end up in that city. So if he wanted to say, hey, I really want to go to OKC, OKC is probably going to get him. If he says, I really want to go to Toronto, they're going to find a way to get him. Okay, so let's get into the deals. I'm going to pull up the deals right here and just make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Oh, one other team. Spurs. The Spurs are a very interesting team. So very sorry about the Spurs for forgetting about you. I'm just going to pull up their thing on Fanspo right now. But the interesting thing about the Spurs is that they can give adequate players. And they can do that in combination with a number 2 overall pick, as well as a few future picks as well down the road. They have a lot of Atlanta's picks. They even have Boston's 2028 swap rights. So they have some interesting trade assets that they hold that are future assets that could be valuable both now in a trade and later down the road as well. So for that reason, sorry, they also have, so they have the number 2 pick, 14 and 31 from this draft, or sorry, 38 from this draft. They probably would want to keep something, but the point is that from a San Antonio perspective, they have an easy way to get salaries up there. So you could give Harrison Barnes makes $19 million. You can give Devin Vassell, and you can also give Keldon Johnson. The thing that makes the most amount of sense is some sort of combination of Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, and maybe one of these other guys that have like a team option for next year, where, you know, the Bucks can kind of decide whether or not they want to pay that person and then get under the luxury tax a little bit and shave some of that money off. So yeah, I believe that they're an over the cap team, but they're a non-tax team. They made that trade with, I believe, Chris Middleton, which got them there, and that helps them with their tax bill a lot. So yeah. Okay, so I already outlined the Spurs package. In my opinion, the Spurs package is decent. If they want more picks, the Spurs package is the right package. Or if they really, really, really value a guy like Harper, and the nice thing about Harper is at least, yeah, you can't tank and tank and tank, but you found what you might deem to be the guy, or maybe it's Ace or whoever it may be, but let's just assume it's Harper for now. You have your guy of the future. You have the guy that you feel might be your franchise cornerstone. And now with additional picks that you might be able to cobble something together, you can start making moves towards, some sort of prominence here where you will be successful in actually putting together a team that people are going to want to see, and your rebuild is going to be less, less lengthy, we'll say. Okay, so we move through the rest of the teams because San Antonio has a decent package, but the players are not as good as the other 2 teams' players that they can put. From a Houston perspective, the Bucks are probably going to ask for Amen Thompson. If they want to, Houston can give up Amen Thompson and Fred VanVleet and some picks. And the picks that they have is they have a lot of Phoenix picks. And Phoenix is probably not going to be in a fun time for a while. So they have some additional Phoenix picks that they can give up. They're not at the San Antonio one, where San Antonio has literally 24 picks over between now and 2031, but they have 14 picks, and some of those picks are not necessarily their own, but are really valuable picks. So just gonna mainly focus on the players here. If they don't want to give up Amen Thompson, they can give one of Green or Sengun, and then cobble together enough salaries with either a guy like, say, Jabari Smith, or even Reed Shepherd, depending on which direction they want to go. The interesting thing will also be, in terms of what to look for, is the Fred VanVleet deal. Because if Fred gets opted into at $44 million, he could be part of that deal that goes out. He's from Rochester, Illinois. So, or sorry, is it Rochester or Rockford? I think it's Rockford, Illinois. But yeah, it's Rockford, Illinois. So the thing about Fred being from Rockford is that it's close enough. It's actually close enough to Milwaukee to entice them. However, again, they're probably going to have to give up Amen Thompson. And all the reports are showing that they don't want to do that. And so giving up Sengun actually makes a lot of sense, because you'd have Giannis who could just slot in at that center spot, honestly, and just slot in there, and you have a team that's, basically ready to go. They have a lot of other wings, even if they let go of, say, Tari Eason or Cam Whitmore. They could even give like expirings as well. They have the right mixture of salaries to make it an easy deal. Now, the question becomes is, how does Milwaukee view those players that are not Amen Thompson, because that's more than likely what the offer would be. How do they view them compared to what the Raptors can put together? If the Raptors are serious about putting together a team, putting up RJ Barrett and quickly and just a boatload of picks is not going to do it. You want someone that is box office, that can sell tickets. And so I notice how I'm not talking about Fox and I'm not talking about Ingram, because those two guys just got there and low-key picked their destination. And so if the Raptors wanted to get into the Giannis sweepstakes, I believe that they could, if they wanted to, by trading Scottie Barnes. It would probably be one combination of Scottie Barnes and young players, so Grady and otherwise, to get Giannis, or Jacoby or whoever, but they can cobble together. Or just from a pure salary cap standpoint, you could do a Scotty and RJ, where you're giving these two more mature players, because they're both fourth year and fifth/sixth year players in the league. Give them that, the money works, and because you're giving Scottie Barnes and potentially additional stuff, you're giving less picks or less swaps. So I don't think this is a deal where you have to give up 4 picks and blah blah blah. You might have to add swaps, but the way that I'm looking at it is it's going to be some sort of combination of control over 4 picks. So 2 picks, 2 swaps, whatever the protections are that they kind of negotiate or whatever. Maybe you add in 2 additional seconds. If I were the Raptors, I would, especially if I'm going to give up Scotty and Grady, I would want to keep the pick for this year, because that pick, having someone who's in the pipeline right now from day one and who can grow along with that team, could be something special, and it also buys you 4 years alongside your burgeoning team. Okay, so I've kind of talked about it from all angles. Let's talk about it from the Toronto Raptors angle. Raptors just got Ingram. The Raptors are not looking to take any more steps back. They have publicly said that they are still in a rebuild, year 2 of the rebuild. To me, I read that as the CYA type of speech, where you're covering yourself, you're behind. And the way that I look at it is, from a Masai standpoint, I've always wanted Giannis. I've tried to get him several times. I even literally let go of my championship front court tandem in, Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, in the hopes that this guy would sign, and then lo and behold, this guy signed elsewhere. So I've been wanting this guy for a while. It's like a prized possession. Masai tried to trade up for him, all those types of things. So now you're really getting someone that is, top tier. The other thing is that Masai's talked about two things: getting someone who can be ideally top 10, or more importantly, top 5 at their position in the league. And Bobby has also talked about the importance of getting a top 5 player, what it means. They've seen this, they've been in this situation, but the difference here is that this guy's under contract. So that's probably the first thing. The other thing is that going through a tough season like this and bringing in Giannis, it just shifts the entire tone of what you're going for. Now, I'm not going to say, I'm not advocating one way or another. I want to actually, I think that there's moves that they can make and there's moves that they should make, but I think that there is ways that they can kind of go into this year and kind of evaluate quickly and make moves on the margin and improve. Yeah, that's where I'm at with that. And from a Masai standpoint, with your contract coming up to a close, and the board just meeting and all that, you always want something to put on your resume when you're talking about a contract extension. And being able to say, I got an MVP level guy in the league, technically the second guy, but this guy is like committed to us for 3 years. Well, when you do that, and when you can get that from a Masai standpoint, that looks really good on the resume. It's definitely a chest thumping type of situation. I think Giannis moves different. He is different. He's a different type of superstar. He's not the rah-rah, type of superstar. He's very low-key, very humble. Obviously, incredible athlete, incredible, dedicated to his craft, hard worker. It's been fun watching the entirety of his career grow and shift in its different iterations. And I'm glad that he actually got Milwaukee one. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I hope for the best for him. And I wouldn't be mad if we got him. So I'll say that. So for me, if people are asking me my opinion, it's natural that you would go for something like this. I lean towards it. It does allow you to. It's a top 5 guy in the league. I don't think it's crazy to say I wouldn't mind Giannis on my team. This is a little bit different than the KD situation. When the KD situation was, and people can go to the different channels that I've been on, my opinion at the time was, if you're gonna go get KD, that's fine. But in my ideal package, I was actually giving up Fred VanVleet and OG. Some people didn't want to do that. Some people didn't want to give up anything. But I was willing to give up. My idea was you keep Siakam, you keep Scotty at the time, and you have your wings. And then, of course, you had KD, who would just round everything out and kind of be able to move and maneuver. Focusing back on the Raptors versus Houston. Houston has the advantage that they are basically ready-made. So if they make that move, they don't have to make secondary moves. So in terms of pitching this to Giannis, Houston can just say, you know what, we'll bring you in, we're ready to go. And then they also have the secondary moves because of how many dudes they have on the roster that honestly they can make those secondary moves. They have the right expirings that are coming up in a year, so they can keep making those moves as time goes on. With the Raptors, because they paid quickly a good amount of money, if you wanted, he would actually fit, to be honest. But if you wanted to move off that deal, that makes it a little bit more difficult because your core is a little bit more locked in. And so a guy like Pirtle, who has I believe 1 year and then a player option in the next off season, he is someone that I'm not sure if he can fit next to Giannis. If I'm not saying that he absolutely can't, but ideally you would probably see a secondary move. I'm not going to talk about the secondary moves now, but I think there are secondary moves that you want to make. But the whole point is that if you get Giannis, you have to be able to make the secondary moves, and you have to make those moves really quickly because you're going to have to pitch that to him in those conversations. So, that's just my kind of reading of the situation, reading of the tea leaves, reading on how it can go. I think if the Raptors really, truly want him, it will come up to the GM and being able to pitch him on that sort of situation and say, hey, welcome home. you know, um, that's really what it comes down to. Because Giannis is going to have to be able to trust whoever he's going to go to, because the Bucks have the respect to send him where he wants to go. That you are going to be able to put me in the best and most winning position. The reasons why he would want to stay in the East, and the reasons why the Raptors have a good chance, is because with teams like the Boston Celtics having so many injuries, the Bucks themselves having injuries, the East looks weaker on paper today. I mean, we don't know where Orlando is going to be next year. They could be back. I mean, when healthy, I think that they could be competing for a top, 4 through 6 type of situation. It's not set in stone, but there is a lot of influx, and it does provide a potential window and opportunity for you to build a championship team on the fly like that with an MVP guy. Well, let me know what you think. Let me know what you would do. Let me know if you want Giannis. If you don't want Giannis, I'm not judging either way. I just want to hear from other people and get their thoughts. Again, if I'm trading a package where it's Scotty and a whole bunch of young players, I want to keep that pick, because you're going to want that pick for a number of reasons. But yeah, if you're not interested in doing this, let me know why. Let me know why not. Yeah, that's it. That's Basketball Rewind. Hope you enjoyed this. Like, comment, and subscribe, and take care.